Hi there, welcome to this build of the Gladiator. Now the Gladiator is a 67.5 inch wingspan vintage model that first appeared in Airtrails magazine in 1941, and we're building this from a really good set of plans which you can download from the Outer Zone website. And if you have a look in the description below this video, there'll be a link to these plans. They're really nice. Now, up to this point, we've got the wings more or less finished. They need a little bit of profiling, but they're more or less done, and they're stowed up on the wall up there out of sight to keep them safe. We've got the fuselage here, and you can see it's a really nice looking fuselage, but I don't want to do any more to it until I've got the tailplane and the fin built, because the next job really is to be working on a turtle deck. It's going to have a really nice turtle deck, but I want to see how that fits in with the tail assembly first. Now, so in this video we're going to build the tail assembly. Here we've got it on the plans, and I have really mixed feelings about this part of the build, because if we look at the fuselage, I think the tip of the tail is in view here. It's really long, and yet most of it, because I think the CG's there, is behind the CG, and it's got a very short nose. I've seen very few other models, vintage models, that have had such a short nose, so we are really going to have some issues in getting this to balance, and we are going to end up putting ballast in the nose. I'm absolutely sure of that. But it is a lovely model and definitely worth the effort. But I have mixed feelings about this, because the tailplane is built very lightly, which is fine. It'll be quite fragile, but I think it'll do the job. But my concerns are that I want to put in an elevator, because I'm making this 3 channels, so we've got a throttle, a rudder and an elevator, and so I've got to put in extra balsa to this, and I want to strengthen it as well around this central section just where it sits on the fuselage. These plans were made for this model, sorry, was designed for a contest flying as light as possible. I want something that's a little bit more resilient. I don't want it to get damaged if it comes down hard. I want something I can fly, you know, day after day kind of thing. So I want to make this a little bit more robust. And as I said, I've got to put an elevator in, but I know that every gram of weight that I put into this tailplane is really going to cost us big time up the front here. So it's going to be a real balance in getting the tail assembly as light as possible, but still making it resilient. And like I said, we will pay for whatever we put down there with a lump of lead up the front. So moving on, the first thing that we're going to do is, we've only got one side of the tail assembly here, and because we've got this nice curve, it's not a straightforward build. So what I want to do is draw out the second side, and so we've got a complete plan of the tail assembly that we can just get this out of the way, that we can build on top of. And so what I've got is my light table here, or my light sheet, whatever you call it. I've got the plans, which I'm turning upside down, and I'm going to trace through the tailplane profile, so I can then turn it over, we can stick them together, and we'll have a complete outline of the tail. So I'm going to do that. I've then decided that this curve here, which is 1/4 inch square, it's quite a curve on that, and I'd like to take the pressure out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to laminate 2 pieces, I think 2 pieces of 1/8 balsa. I might even do some 1/16. I'll have to have a think about that. So I'll get the plan sorted out, and I'll get a profile made up so we can laminate that. And the other thing is I've got a set of ribs here. Now these are ribs that I've drawn out for the tail assembly. Yeah, these ones here. Now these ones I'm not confident are accurate, and there's a really old 1940s technique, old school technique, for working out what the ribs should be on a tapered wing, and that's what I've done. And it's you can see, let's have a quick look at this. Right, you can see there's a little bit of discrepancy between what I think they should be and what they are on the plans. And this should be slightly higher here. Again, this one should be slightly higher, and here and here. Because at the end of the day, from the middle rib to the tip, the rib at the tip, we need to have a constant angle as it slopes down to the tip. And here, for example, the second one, you'd have a little bit of a dip before it comes back up to this one. And this is too low here for these. So that's what I reckon anyway. I will get these cut out and check they're right, and once I've got the correct profile, I'll scan the ribs and I'll get these posted on AutoZone, so you've got a copy of what the rib templates should be. So right, what I'm going to do is get the plan done, get these profiles stuck on some bolts and get them cut out, and we'll get those leading edges laminated. Right, you can see it's definitely time for an update. I've got the other side of the tailplane drawn out now. I've got the fuselage shown where it's going to be, and I've modified it. I mean, you can see this is a beast of a tailplane. I mean, it's about 31 inches. It's got a really deep chord. I mean, I've built planes with wings smaller than this. So anyway, I've modified this by putting in 2 elevators, and that's going to be bound by this 1/4 inch timber here, and that will give enough strength and maybe a little bit more added for the hinges. The 2 elevators are going to be linked with a piece of U-shaped music wire, and originally it had a spar along here. I've whited out this side, whited out this side so you can see the finished thing, or what I'm thinking it will be like, and I've left in the bits here so you could see what it was like. This spar that went along here, I've decided to move back to here. I didn't want to do away with it altogether, but there was no point having it so close to that. So hopefully that will kind of balance out the strength. So I'm really pleased with how this is looking, and all I need to do now is get the bits prepared so I can start building it. This round here may change a little bit, I'm not totally sure, but we've got the basis of what we're going to do. Now, the ribs I've glued to this this is 1/16 balsa. I've covered it with Scotch blue masking tape, which just stick that on, and then I've just used some PVA to stick the plan onto there. I can then cut these out, and then the profiles will peel off and just leave me with the rib. Once I've got these cut out, I need a few S1s, and obviously I'll need a second set because this is just for the one side, so I'll use the ones I cut out as a template. So I need to wait for that to dry, and the final thing is I've cut out some foam board, and this is about a 1/4 inch thick. I think it's very slightly under a 1/4 inch, but it's certainly thick enough to do the laminating. And I'm going to pin this down like this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to cut a couple of pieces of 1/8 balsa. I've got a piece somewhere, here we go, and we'll laminate this all in one go. I was thinking originally I'd do 2 pieces, but why have a weakness, a joint in the front? We'll do it all as one. So what I'll do now is I'll get these pinned down, set out. I'm going to put some PVC free cling film over the plans so we don't stick to the plans, and then we can get this laminated. So I'll get this set up. Right, definitely time to get messy. We've got the profiles pinned down, we've got the plans protected, I've got my 2 strips of 1/8 balsa. It's quite hard balsa, but it will go round here okay, and hopefully once it's laminated we will take a lot of tension out of that curve. It might still spring back a little bit, we'll have to see. I've put that piece in of balsa there, which we can just slot this down. It's a bit tight, but there, and that will get us started. So what we need to do first though is get these well PVA'd. I'm using just white wood glue, and I'm going to put them together and just put loads of this on, and it will get really messy, but what we want to do is allow this to soak in a little bit while we're doing it, so that it just softens up the wood and helps it sort of go round those corners. So get this on. Right, got loads of glue on there. You could say, well, why do you do both sides? You didn't need to. Absolutely true, but I just want it to soak into both pieces. We're now going to turn them and put the two wet faces together, and I'll use some tissue here, kitchen roll, just to give these a wipe down and get off most of the PVA that's squeezed out. It's funny, I really like laminating. I find it a really nice way to work when it's needed. So where are we? There we go. So now we can just put that into there, squeeze some of that glue out, and I've got blocks of wood here. I've raided the scrap box. Will that go all the way? Yep. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these blocks to make sure that this is held nice and tight against the former. Now you could use pins, and I've seen people use pins, but the thing with doing that is that you'll end up with pin marks in your leading edge on this tailplane, and I would rather use blocks like this, because you need to put on quite a lot of pressure to close up that gap, and because we don't want any areas where it's not being forced together. So do this bit. So I'm just going to go around and pin all of this now, and we'll have a look when it's done. Right, well, I've been cracking on with this now, and this has had overnight to dry, so we'll get that off in a minute. Just a quick look at these 1/8 spars. This one is 5/8 in the middle, and it tapers down to 1/8. This is the main spar that goes round about there, and then we've got a smaller spar, I think that's 1/4, and again goes down to 1/8, and that is the newly positioned spar. I've also, let's put these somewhere safe, I've also been doing the bits for the trailing edge of the elevator and the wing tips. I haven't done the actual tips here because I want to get this off first. And what I've been doing is, so for example for this piece here, I just traced that on the plans, put it on the balsa and stuck a pin through, just to give the rough outline of the piece that I needed to make. And these only need to be rough. I mean, they don't want to be too rough, but you know, they're slightly oversized now, so that I can shape up that trailing edge. So got those, and oh, I've also just roughly cut the ribs out. I'm going to cut these out better in a minute, but I want to have a look at this. So we'll take off these blocks, and we'll see whether this springs back or not. I'm not expecting it to move, to be honest, but if it does move a little bit, that is absolutely fine. It's probably stuck to the foam board. We'll have to just pull that off a little bit. So right, well, last block, couple of pins, and we'll see what this is like. Yeah, it is stuck to the foam board a little bit. There we go, that's coming off. It's stuck to the, yeah, just, there we go. Ah, what's that like? Yeah, it has sprung back a little bit, but very little tension in that now, so that is going to be so much better. You can see the shape of it, and it will take a lot of tension out of that out of the final build when we pin that down. Oh, I'm really pleased with that. So what I'm going to do now is we'll remove the foam, and I'll get the ribs cut, and I'll lay out this one side and just check we've got them the right shape before we do the other side. I thought it was worth just showing you how I'm cutting out the extra ribs. These are the S1 ribs, which are the central ribs, and I need 7 the same size. And what I've got is I've got my one with the template on, which is the top one, and then what I'm doing is I'm pinning that onto the balsa and then cutting around the rib. And when I've done that and the rib is free, then I just leave it in the pile, put it on the balsa again, push the pins down, and then cut it for another rib. So I've got 2 more to do, and by building up this, I'm building up a sandwich of ribs, and hopefully they will be more or less the same size. And I say more or less, but what I will do is once I've finished doing the cutting, I will sand them and make sure that they are all exactly the same size. So you can see what I'm doing there, and I just cut this front piece off. You can see there's a little bit of variation, which is fine. And now I'm just going to do the last one, and we'll put that on there again, try and make as much use of the balsa as we can, or less waste should I say. And then we just push the pins down a little bit further, and it's quite good, this cutting mat, because the pins actually stick into the cutting mat a little bit. So now we can go around and just do this last rib, and we'll know once we've sanded them, and they will only need a touch with some sandpaper, that they will all be the same. And then we'll have to do the tapered ribs, but that's a different story. Right, you can see from this we've got this wing side, the right hand side, laid out. We've got the edges on, we've got all the ribs in, and the ribs are pretty good. I'm quite pleased with those. They are going to need touching once the whole wing's glued together. They'll need sanding and profiling a little bit, because they are just a little bit too much material, particularly at the front and the back, but I think that's a good thing. Let's get the wing done, and then we'll just profile it nicely when we do the trailing edge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these ribs out, I'm going to copy them so I've got a set for the other side of the wing, but also so I can post a set on AutoZone, and hopefully that will be helpful to somebody. Now, you may have noticed I haven't done the bit for the elevator yet. What I'm going to do is get the whole wing set out, and then I can use a straight line. I can mark up where the ribs need cutting, cut them there, and then get these pieces in for the elevator. I think that is probably the best way to do it. And once it's all laid out, we'll have a look and get it glued. Right, I thought it was worth having just a quick update. I've trimmed all of the ribs now, and I've labelled the bits so I know where they go when we come to put them in the elevators. Now you can see this is a little bit proud here, not too bad, but it tapers down here to meet this tip, and there's quite a bit to come off, so I've just marked that a little bit, and I will just go with my Dihedral and just take off that. It'll make it perhaps a little bit easier to do now than when we've got the wing. I'll then put in these pieces and build up the elevators. Right, well I think we're ready to start gluing this. I'll take one more look at it and make sure there's nothing I've missed, but I'm really pleased with how it's looking. I've got the elevators done here. This central bit will get cut out, and they'll be joined by a metal U-shaped piece of music wire. I think I said that earlier, but I'm going to leave it connected at the moment until it's all profiled, and then I will do the cuts. I've got some 1/16 in here, which is kind of mimicking the width of the hinges. Hopefully that will be enough. I didn't want to make it much more than that, but if it is, when we hinge it, we can always just profile these bits so it fits in okay. The only other thing to say is these two centre ribs here, I'm going to sheet top and bottom with 1/16, and what I've done is I've cut off a 1/16 strip top and bottom so that that will go on, and if you see that, just with the sheeting on there, it comes to the same height as that, so that will go on there nicely, top and bottom. And I've got bits on the underside just to support it so it doesn't go down too far. So I think what I'm going to do now, like I say, I'm going to have another look at it and make sure I've got it right, but I think I'm going to go around and CA it now and just get this all glued. I can't wait to get this off the bench, which will be the next job once it's glued. And I'm just going to use my blocks and just make sure that everything's square like this, so we don't end up with any crooked ribs. And what I would say is, if you're laying out a wing like this, or a tailplane, I mean this is wing size, then you need to make sure that there is no tension, there's no weights just holding bits down and hoping that it will stay there when you glue it, because it won't, it will spring back up. So it needs to sit there comfortably without any tension, you know, bits trying to lift up. It just needs to be relaxed, and then when we glue it and take it off, it will stay where we put it. If we try and force it, it won't stay there. What else? I think that is probably it now. So I think what I'm going to do is start CAing these, and I will probably work from the centre going out, and just, like I say, make sure everything's square, everything's down on where it should be, there's no gaps underneath the ribs. Okay, we'll have a look once it's done. Right, well, this is all glued now, or I think it's all glued. I've been round and checked all the joints, and it's looking good. I'm quite excited to get this off. I'll be honest with you, I never tire of this part of the build where you actually take a wing or a tailplane off the building board and see what you've just made. I just find it a really exciting part of the build, just to get that wing off. So let's get this done. Very few pins in it now. I was taking pins out as I went, particularly on these back pieces, thicker pieces, so I could pinch them together as I CA'd them. Now, I think this will have stuck down a little bit because there are a few cuts that I put in the plastic. So let's see. Now we've got a ruler somewhere. Let me use this. A ruler's always a good thing for taking this off, because you can just slide it underneath. If you start trying to lift it up too much, it's potentially going to do some damage. So just hear it sort of cracking as the CA comes off the plastic. Not the balsa cracking, honestly. There we go. Look at that. Oh, it's lovely and flat. Another really nice thing is when you get a wing off and it's lovely and flat. Oh, I am really pleased with that. Oh, I've just found, I just found a piece I hadn't glued. There we go. So there was one piece, but that's no big deal. Oh, I'm really excited to get this done, and actually, it feels a lot more substantial than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a bit flimsier than this, but then it has got these two big pieces of balsa across the back. So I'll get that CA'd now, and then I'm going to bring this video to a close, I think. Well, it's really good to see the tailplane in situ with the wings and the fuselage. You really get an idea of what a beast this Gladiator is. And I can't wait now to get on to the next stage and start to pull it together. I mean, it's good to get the skeleton of this tailplane finished, but there's clearly a lot more work to do. We've got some strengthening pieces to put in, we've got the sheeting to do, and we've got a lot of profiling and sanding, and then we've got to separate out the elevators, cut them down here and cut them here, and get them hinged. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that in the next video, or I may actually start building the fin and the rudder so that I can see how they go together, how they're going to, how the fin will fit into this tailplane. I'm not sure. I'll have to have a think. But it is really exciting to get this this stage finished and for it to come out looking so nice as well. So I'm, as you can tell, I am really excited to get this done, and I can't wait, as I said, to get on with it. I hope you found it interesting and maybe even exciting, who knows, and or maybe that's just me. But please come back, see how we get on in pulling together this lovely 1941 vintage model, the Gladiator. Thanks very much for watching.